Hi, everyone. This is Marisa B with Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. Today, I'm so happy to have Christina Varga, artist, gallery owner, and woman extraordinaire. She's done so much. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for being here to talk with our audience today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be able to reach out to all these wonderful folks that follow you and talk to them.
Oh, thank you. What a beautiful background you have today. Lucky you. You're outside in the gorgeous air.
I am. I try to spend as much time in the gardening weather as I can. And my elderberry bush is over here. So beautiful.
Oh,
the garden behind me. I love it here.
oh, it's beautiful, beautiful. I see the sun shining bright. Again,
Yeah.
I thank you for taking the time to come and speak with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your gallery, both the current and the prior gallery?
I am a self-taught artist with journalism and communications degrees, and moved here from New York City, where I lived for about 8 years, looking for myself, really. And I took a vacation, a break from the city, a forced break from the city because it was a little bit hyped up, and came here to rest for a week in upstate New York in Woodstock, and put everything in a U-Haul and moved here 3 weeks later. And that was in, I think, November of 2002. And by June of 2003, I had opened my art studio and gallery in Woodstock, New York, VARGA Gallery, and had it there for just under 12 years. I closed October 31st, 2014, and that was the year my daughter was born. And then reopened a new art studio here in Phoenicia in February of 2019, where I currently create all my work and do all my things, homeschool my children, keep my library, meet with people. It's a very unique and wonderful space. I do kids art classes. I do adult art classes. Usually that's a few people or one-on-one. And really just try to live my best life, being a creative, caring person, and doing the best for my community, and making sure that my contributions to this community are wholesome and good and creative and inspiring.
Well, now this gallery in Phoenicia, of course, I know the gallery in Woodstock. I found it fascinating. You specifically dealt with outsider art, self-taught art, right? Self-taught artists, folk art.
Folk art, outsider, self-taught artists, people who were self-motivated, people who didn't necessarily have this like formal education in the arts, because I did not. And therefore, when I would approach galleries that were looking for something like somebody with an MFA or something like that, I realized I do not have an outlet in those galleries, and I should probably create an outlet for artists like myself who are making because they desire to make, and not necessarily because that's what they were trained to do.
And do you still offer that in Phoenicia, in the gallery in Phoenicia?
It's a little bit packed. It's kind of stuffed to the gills with my own work and my own materials, things that people give me, my library. We have a yoga studio there, and a small one, but a wall of mirrors and a clear floor on which to move. But I do pop-ups. I do curate things in other places. I will install artwork for a restaurant. I have a couple different restaurants right now that have my work, and they actually sell it, which is better for me, because when people come into my studio, they usually ask, do you live here? Which is hilarious to me because it's so cluttered with art materials, really stuff all over the floor. So I just tell them no, but my art does. And I work on putting things. We do art hangs on the boardwalk at my studio, which there's an outdoor boardwalk, which is beautiful. And it has a big blank wall. And so we have art gatherings out there with a little bit of music, a little bit of, light refreshments. And right now I'm working on the very first Phoenicia Festival of the Arts, which will happen August 4th through 6th. That's the first weekend of August. And that involves curating a gallery, putting together vendors and art folks who would like to have, their pop-up tents. We're going to have live outdoor music. The Phoenicia Theater, the Phoenicia Playhouse is letting me help them by putting in a show for that weekend. So we have
that's lovely.
3 days of theater events, which is pretty amazing. And then I'm still trying to link up with the proper like Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga folks, but the field in Phoenicia is also reserved for the weekend for families to really go there and enjoy. And hopefully we'll get some open, free movement workshops for people to go and do. But really it's about bringing art to everyone, and it's free. So the events at the theater will be free. The events around town will be free. Obviously the businesses will be open for business, and that's another thing is, the pandemic, COVID really put a damper on everyone's interpersonal reaction, like relationships and, there was a lot of closing in, which was actually really wonderful for me and my children as an artist, because wintertime is some of my favorite time to create. It's quiet, you're in your place by yourself. So COVID was like a 2-year winter time. And for creative people, I would think probably you might find that creative people actually really enjoyed it. People who like to be at home really enjoyed it. People who were like private gardeners, they really enjoyed it. And I think it was a bit of therapy. It was like, it was hard for a lot of people, but a lot of people took the opportunity to really do some soul searching and some seeking. And I think that in that way, there's, the silver lining on the clouds that was a pause in a very hectic life that we all seem to lead now, a little bit too crazy with, all of the different stressors that are in the world.
Yes.
And
I have to confess, my daughter and we looked at it as a vacation.
Exactly.
We were constantly running. And for us, it was a vacation and we were thrilled.
And the thing is, it's a real demonstration of what the proper pace of life should be. And it's maybe not the one that we're forced into by corporate life, by schedules, by Monday through Friday, 9 to 5ing. I think maybe that's unhealthy.
I say the same thing.
And
exactly the same thing, because we're almost forced to have to live what's told to us to live.
We are
in a way, right?
We are forced. And for people who are able to carve out a way of maintaining and living, you might not necessarily you might get rich, who knows, but maybe helping people recognize that maybe getting rich is not the point of everything.
Right. Because the richness of life is in the eye of the beholder, really, right? What's rich for me may not be rich for you. That's how it is.
That's how it is. And so, exactly. And so gravitating towards things that make you happy, that are not to the detriment of other people, towards a lifestyle that makes you comfortable. I think that was one of the things, that was why after 8 years in New York City, I realized I need to go to a greener place.
Right. And I was going to say, because, let's face it, you were in corporate America. I mean, you've worked for some big names doing very big communications jobs there.
Exactly.
I know that you were involved with corporate America.
Yeah.
There was always arts though, but it was in the arts.
Yes.
It was always in the arts, but
it's so funny
corporate
when
America.
When I was really little, by that, I mean, 13, 14, in my teenage years, I used to think to myself that I was going to be a plastic surgeon, because then I would be a doctor who would still be able to create art by, sculpting people's whatevers. To me now, it seems so funny, but it's instilled at a very young age. You got to figure out a way to make money. And if you don't figure out a way to make money, you're not going to be happy. And so, people are sort of sluiced towards, thinking that being a doctor or being a lawyer or being, something like that is much more important than being a farmer or a gardener or, you know, somebody that works with people. There's just and there's many ways to work with people, but I mean like in a more of a nurturing way, you know, maybe working with kids or working with people who have special needs, things like that, stuff like that, that is not glorified
Right.
when you're growing up in the industrial schooling mindset that tells you find a job, be a good American, you know, or just a good citizen, you know, not necessarily just an American. It's just it's a it's a kind of mentality that I think that would behoove much of the world to reconsider.
Yes, yes. And it's funny because that's really why I had asked you on, because you so moved me with your conversation about how dare I. That so struck me.
It's true.
Because it just hit me, because really that's exactly what's happening. What you were saying. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be? I thought that was just fantastic.
You know, I'm running for town board right now. And I'm also at the same time homeschooling my children and launching a new annual arts festival, and really living by my own rules. And there is so much wagging of the finger at me, other people, just wagging of the finger in general. Like, why are you doing that? How dare you do that, instead of like, find a way to make a good job, you know, find a living, make a living, you know, all these other pressures that are like telling people to not focus on what's right for them, you know, and a lot of, you know, how dare you not invest in a 501c, I mean, a 401k? How dare you not think practically about your insurance, where your next paycheck is coming from, you know, security? Why are you not drilling your children to work, you know, like all these things, like all of these rules that are more like guidelines set in place by somebody who is not thinking about the health and wholeness of humanity. You know, like all these very strange, you know, the animals don't live by these rules. I'm fine with seasonal rules. I'm fine with like spring, summer, fall. You know, I'm fine with changes in the garden and following like a natural thing. The unnatural pace of everything, and also the rule breaking. You know, it's very funny to me. I spent a long time suggesting to women how important it is to assert yourself in this world of men.
Yes.
And when it came time for me to do, you know, for someone suggested to me, would you be interested in running for town board? Now, I have to tell you, for years, I've been interested in running for town board, but as a mother and a homeschooling mom, there were limitations on what I could do. My children are 6 and 9 now, and fairly independent. You know, they're pretty independent. And now is the time that I can turn my sights towards that. But people are saying things to me like, well, why have you never been to a town board meeting? You know, they're putting all these things at me that are things to cast doubt on why I would want to do things now, and why I haven't done it their way until now. And how dare I get into their little party and interrupt their agenda to bring something to my town. And
right, the mere fact that you might be able to make a difference,
exactly,
and want to help your community, help your community more than you're already doing, that's not good enough, or that's
because
not
I haven't played with
thoughts
them.
Go. Right? That's not where their thoughts go. Isn't it amazing?
And not only that, you know, I have to say, there is a closed-mindedness to these things. I'm running against 2 guys, great guys, whatever. I don't know them very well. I know one, he does beer. The other one, I'm not sure, but you know, he grew up in this town. No matter what about them, it is imperative for women to start to assert themselves on these town, school board, all these things, on all these levels, and to get involved. I appreciate the service that they have given us so far.
Mhm.
I think it is time to let some fresh thinking, some
Mhm.
fresh perspective into the ways of all of our environments, all of our regions, all of our homes, our schools, our towns, everywhere. It is time for people such as myself to step up. And so I am. And it's cheesing a lot of people off.
Mhm. But
And
isn't
I
it funny?
can't
That's the
say,
true democratic system, though, isn't it? Right?
yes,
We're
yes,
free to stand up and say, you know what? I think I want to contribute, or I think I have something to contribute. After all, that's
exactly.
really what we had been founded on initially.
Exactly. And right now I'm dealing with a lot of people who just think that I'm either not qualified or that uh I am um not ready. Now I have served on the board of an artist association and museum for 3 years, and I can
Mhm.
tell you that between that, the work that I have done in my community,
Mhm.
teaching classes for free at libraries, outreach with my local farmers market,
Mhm.
making things for them. I have been available and ready to people
Mhm.
for a long time. And now I'd like to do this, and I'd like to do a festival, and I'd like to do there.
Mhm.
You know what? If I think I can do it, I
Right.
can do it. And that's it. And for people to tell me you're over your skis is
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. I don't want to disparage anyone, but the most motivating thing in my life literally has been for people to tell me, oh, you won't be able to do that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, really? Well, watch. And
But we have a
that's
right
literally,
to. You have a right to. If
we have
that's
a
the
right to,
path
and
you
I
want
don't
to, of
need
course.
anyone to
Right.
question my abilities. And if they do question my abilities,
Mhm.
they should do it to my face. That's it. I can
Absolutely.
answer your questions.
Absolutely.
I can
And
have a
that's
chat.
why how dare I, that was just so
That
brilliant.
was a public statement to
Yes.
everyone, from my family members to my friends and
Right.
people that I don't know and people that I do know. How dare you tell me what to do? How dare you put limitations on me? How dare you tell me I can't do what I
Mhm.
feel is right for my children or for my
Mhm.
family or for my community or for myself? How dare you push your agenda onto me?
I mean,
I'm not here for that.
from a psychological standpoint, I mean, being a therapist and dealing with human nature, I always wonder why someone feels compelled to have someone else live the way they dictate. I don't
It's
understand it.
so
Is it a
strange.
fear? Is it a fear that
I
they
think
might
it's a
be
fear.
judged? It
Yeah,
has to be it has to be, because what else could it be? I mean, really, the world would be a better place if everyone minded their business and worried
that's right.
about their own family unit and how they live. We shouldn't really be pointing fingers at other people and telling them that they're not doing the correct job or the right job, or this is the only way to do it. Really, I don't understand how that continues to this day. Well, in
It's true.
one respect, I do understand how it continues in this day, but it's sad. It's a very sad commentary. I mean,
Yeah, and
really, if we could all just live peacefully.
exactly. And it's sort of it's really illustrated by what's going on with women's rights, reproductive
Oh,
rights right now.
absolutely.
And it's also going on with the way that the nation has been sort of galvanized over this LGBTQ positive lifestyle, and people sort of inflaming their rhetoric to suit their own personal perspectives without like being gracious,
Mhm.
appreciating humans for who they are. A person has
Exactly.
every right to express themselves in any way whatsoever. And for someone to tell me that I don't have bodily autonomy, that I can't do what I want with my body, whether it be reproductive, whether it be some sort of, modification on any level. Why is a nose job okay or a boob job okay, but someone's, gender affirming surgery for themselves is
Mm-hmm.
not? I mean, getting into like children and that sort of thing. Also, again, it's a family thing. I have spoken with my children very early on. Like,
Mhm.
I think probably the first time that they ever saw LGBTQ positive and they asked me what it is, that's when we had that conversation. That was years ago.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think it's very important to accept people for who they are and to embrace them for who they are. I mean, if you're a terrible racist or if you have bigoted views or something like that, you know, in that situation, perhaps it's better to try and, you know, reach someone and have conversation and that sort of thing. But, you know, judgment, at least judgment expressed at people, is probably best reserved. There's no need for that.
Well, I know. I mean, I can only speak for myself personally. And when my daughter was young, I wanted her to understand that all kinds of people make a family.
That's right.
And that love is love. And when you love somebody, that's the most important thing. And I tried to raise her that way, to understand that and not to judge anyone, because we all have a right to love. We all should be loved. And so it doesn't matter. And I know that you have been involved with LGBT art as well. You have offered your space for artists.
Yes. Always. I had the women's show. There was a strong component of that there. One of my first shows was with an artist named Richard Treitner. It was called Moments of Revelation. He's possibly one of my favorite artists, and gay and HIV positive and an activist and a poet and a writer and a performer. And, you know, he's been embraced by the Native American community. He's a shaman. I mean, you know, the thing is, there is no one else in the world like Richard. For me to have any kind of ideas about Richard other than to celebrate him as a human soul and expression of life, there is no reason to do any of that. And I have beloved trans friends. I have beloved lesbian and gay friends. I have people who I admire tremendously. I have non-binary friends. You know, it's almost to me like the labeling is getting to be much, because I just want to see people as who they are, and feel them as who they are. It's like, you know, at some point it became like, you don't say Black, you say African American. Then that changed to like, you know, like these labels. While I appreciate, if I want to get to know someone better, their labeling, I think we can get beyond, and we are probably moving to a place that's beyond, because I do believe somehow collectively we are ascending in consciousness, in expression. We're ascending, and as we ascend consciously, those sorts of things are going to sort of like melt away, and we're going to have direct communication, telepathic, psychic, whatever. We're gonna be able to really understand people like dogs. You know, they're not talking, or like elephants or dolphins or whales. You know, there's some sort of sonar between human to human that we're going to be able to feel. And the masks that we put on ourselves to prepare ourselves to deal with the world are going to be able to like fade away a little bit. And I think it's going to be very good for everyone. You know, I think that as we get there, and I don't know what's raising that consciousness. It could just be people becoming more aware because of the internet. It could be people like watching TikTok, you know, and like swooping through and getting deeper into their own knowledge base or what informs their thinking. It could be, you know, could be so many things, the interconnectivity. But as that is all happening, it's so important to maintain a connection to nature, because we are natural creatures, not unnatural creatures that should be forced to live in a human created, dictated world. One that should be sort of like more rolling, like the tides, something where we're more in tune with what we really are, which are natural creatures.
And yes, working alongside the planet, right?
Exactly.
Not against
it. Hopefully at a point, elevated to the point that we understand that this is our house. And we need to create it and make it better. And we can do that even if you're like the most stringent environmentalist. There are things that you can do to make your world better. And it might just happen in like your worldview, how you're talking to people, how you're connecting with people. It could be a lot of different things, but it is it behooves us all to live our highest and best lives as we can come to know that. And I've always just been like, whenever I see the number 1111 or like have a reason to make a wish, I'm always like, please to help me, guide me to my highest and best path. And I say that to the multiverse, to God, to spirit, to whatever people like want to call it, to like the oceans that move me through, the currents that guide me. Please help me to live my highest and best expression, to be on my highest and best path, to connect in the best way with whoever I can connect with, and whoever it is that my life has brought me to connection with. And in my art studio, I find that happens a lot. In life, in just having been an artist, I think that my world has opened up a lot more than it would have been had I pursued things the way the people around me thought would be the correct way to pursue them. And that is the trick. That's the trick, to pursue it the best way that you know how, notwithstanding all the opinions swirling around you, to do what's right that you know is right.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the internet, the technology. In a way, yes, many people talk about it as it could be damaging people. However, I think it's opened up the world to many people to find that they have a community. They can be involved in a community. There are like-minded people that are out there. They can express their feelings and find that others have the same feelings.
Exactly.
And then they can connect with those that are of a like mind and that want to live in a more enlightened way and to assist with the evolution on the planet.
Exactly. And these communities are finding themselves through something that's an immediate connection right here in your life, but could be connecting you with somebody in Africa, in Europe. You could be talking to, and, making strong connections, which is part of what I think this sort of raising of the consciousness is even though we are far apart, we're right there together.
Yes.
There's no time. There is no distance. It's instantaneous and you are already there. That is what I wrote down one time when I had this sort of revelation of what it would be like to be aware of a higher dimensionality. In that higher dimension, just from a little bit of reading that I did into this in my years when I was interested in string theory and all that sort of stuff. Those are the 4 things that I sort of like gleaned from it. Time becomes like almost irrelevant. Distance also is like shortened somehow. It's instantaneous because it's happening now and we're already there. All of the tools that we need, everything, that all our resources are right here, right now. We can do these things now. And that is the critical thing for people to understand. It's very easy to be so dogged in your mindset and so sure about what you think. And it's not until you relax that fist that you might be able to see that way that you have held for so long is not the right way, or is like slightly different, or can maybe let it go for a second and see if something else feels better. And by feeling better, I mean is more harmonious and better for you, not like just like letting go of something that you're supposed to be taking care of. Not that, like letting go of other people's things that you should be taking care of, like other people's agendas.
And of course, it's visual. It's very visual. It's visual. It's instantaneous. And it is like the visual arts, right? It makes a statement because it's there. It's live. It's in front of you. You're seeing it. It evokes emotions with whatever may be the conversation, whatever the pictures may be, or the group may be.
That's right.
And that's really what art is, right? It's visceral. It definitely evokes an emotion, different emotions for different people, but it certainly does. And it makes a statement.
Yes. And the thing that I think, and again, people, when they come to my studio, the word that people most often use, and this is also in the studio that I had in Woodstock is they were so inspired. Everyone comes in and finds themselves to be inspired in some way. And the thing is, like, to be inspired is really the meaning of life, I think. To have something move you in such a way that you want to move into some sort of action. You want to either make something, or you want to tell somebody something, or you're motivated. You're the impetus is there because you have felt something move you in a way that is spiritual, that is like, and not like religious, inspiring. They're creating the desire to grow, to create, make, do in people. And I think that correct connections, connections that are beneficial are inspiring. Environments that are beneficial are inspiring. This is why I'm so concerned with school these days, and why I homeschool my children. It's like, I'm not disparaging. I just feel like it might be a time to take a step back from the way things are done and examine whether or not it has been benefiting people and society as a whole. And I know that within schools, there is a lot of inspiration. Kids do thrive, but it seems to be there's a pointing at excellence in a small group, and to elevate a small group because they're so good, they're the best, they're valedictorian and all that. And what does that say about the rest of the children?
Right.
Like, why should someone strive to be better than everyone else at something? Why is it not that we have, the best at this and the best at that? I mean, it's this stratification of people into like grades and levels of approval that I'm finding myself having a hard time with, because I see within everyone excellence, something that they bring, there's something in everyone that's amazing and beautiful. That's why we're here. We're souls,
right? A purpose for everyone.
Yes,
right?
everyone has a purpose.
Yes.
And if you're going to be ground down to think that your purpose is just to maintain the way things are going in the world, I'm here to wake you up. It's not working for everyone. And, we shouldn't be marginalizing a segment of anything to benefit another segment of something. So there could be a greater care, greater consciousness way to look at the problems of society on all levels: environmental, human rights levels, reproductive levels, educational levels, all those levels. We are at the point, especially having gone through this 2 years of quarantine, pandemic, COVID, paranoia, masks, all that stuff. We are at a point that we can pause and take a minute to analyze and say, okay, how does everybody feel about this? I know a lot of people were really comfortable saying, you're not doing this, you're not. You know what? Let's just take a minute to like collectively reassess and see, are your children happy, doing well? Are they kind? Are they creative? Have they, shown that they're enjoying what they're doing and that they're like really happy? Or are they just grinding through? We're not gears. We're not meant to grind.
And of course, and you're an artist, and so your voice is being heard with your work, and the subjects, the topics that you want to speak up about, that you feel are important. Let me ask you, what is your preferred medium that you work in? Do you work in a number of mediums? What exactly do you use for art materials?
I have a tendency to use whatever has come to me from people who give me things. I also like to use a lot of the stuff that comes with things that I've gotten for my children: packages of presents, holographic papers, garland, wrapping papers for presents. I'm the crazy mom at the end of a party gathering up all the tissue paper and all the garland and stuff and being like, I don't want to throw this out.
Always see a project, right? Always see a project in all of
see
that.
colors, I
Yes,
see reflections, I see,
yes.
so in that way, and I'll show you, I have
Yes, I'd love to see some of the work. I
Yeah.
mean, I know your work, of course.
Yeah.
And
Well,
but I'd love to
here,
see
let me
some of it. I'd love you to
Do you
show
mind if I
some.
grab it? Do
Go
you
right
mind?
ahead, please. No, go right ahead. I'd love for the audience to see it.
Just to show you. Just a few examples. So,
Oh, look at the colors.
exactly. Now this is stuff that was going to be thrown away. Stuff that was like this is packaging from one of my daughter's makeup bags. This is the bag of the purple from a bag of dog food. Yeah. You see?
Wow.
Here's a bracelet that was outgrown. Here's a piece of wood that was a scrap, a toy that was broken, a map from National Geographic. I tend to use a lot of materials that were given to me. I was given a big group of vintage comics. So I have all these comics from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are just amazing.
So now I know the person to bring my things.
Oh, yes.
Do you know the artist Suprina?
No.
Yes, well, she works similar, and we've delivered many things to her. Now I have someone else that I can bring many things to. Wonderful.
And I just saw someone who was she's the widow of an artist that I loved so much, and her house was down the street from my studio in Woodstock. And when he died, she gave me so many amazing art materials. And I took my children to a park to go biking 2 days ago. And she was there in a kayak. We didn't recognize each other until we were all done. But I told her how much I had appreciated and still continue to use the art materials from her late husband that she had given me. And that gave her so much joy to know that this stuff was saved from the trash. This too. Look at the colors, so vibrant. I know, it's so amazing, right? And this is slime that my daughter made with my art materials that dried up and was dripping off of something. This is the top of a red gallon of $1 million Benjamin Moore paint that I never close up my cans of paint because I don't know why, but I just sort of put it on here. This is from a magazine. This is also slime. Here's the wrapper from some candy. Here's a little scratchy thing that my kids did. This is flashing from my man's like carpentry work. He was like, this all goes to the dump. And I'm looking at it going, what?
Yes.
That's gold metal. I will tuck it into my studio and not throw that out at all. And so, that's sort of the way that it goes. And I try to use what I can. There's a strong feminist slant to my work. I've always loved women's bodies. It's a lot of art over the centuries has been made and focused on. And so, that was a natural thing for me to do because I could model for myself. I could, it's just something that I've always loved. I don't know. I don't paint men that much. I do now more. And I think that comes from having become older and more familiar with, musculature and things like that I didn't necessarily have access to. But here is a portrait I did. And this is a woman that
how lovely. Oh, beautiful.
This looks exactly like her. I work sometimes from photographs, and this was a post that she put out on Instagram. But the thing that's remarkable about this painting is that she looks like a painting. I did this in 2023, this year. She looks like a painting that I did in 1997 of Medusa and her two sisters. They're called the Furies. And their faces are the same. Their body types are the same. She was, when she walked into my studio, she came to my studio in Phoenicia. I was like, what? I mean, who is this person? Her name is Baby Krasivaya. She's got an OnlyFans channel. She's doing that whole thing. Amazing person. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And I had to capture her, and I did. And I just love this piece so much. I want to show you this too.
Oh, another large piece. Oh, how lovely.
This is Pink Afro Deity. So pink
Oh, that's
afro
lovely.
and then deity. I do a lot of work with vintage magazines. My friend Michael Hunt is an artist that I showed in my studio in Woodstock, and he gave me some Playboys, Penthouses, Wheeze, Viva, old 60s and 70s erotica. And I use the pictures in it a lot, but I had never used the text. And so I was like, I got to do something with all these extra pages from these magazines. I don't want to throw them away. I just keep them in stacks. This is all text from a Playboy interview. I don't know who was being interviewed, but I find ways to make things with things that would be going to waste. Like it's trying to upcycle and elevate the mundane, just physical stuff.
But what a statement that is. The interview from a Playboy in a Madonna.
Create a portrait. I know.
That's some statement, yes.
I know, and I love it, and it's all very empowering. I have said to people, like, when they're called VARGA girls, the VARGA girls that I make, I have said to people that when I cut a person out of one of these magazines, that I really feel like, and I've given them a halo, and I've created art out of them. I feel like I'm beatifying this person who was in a photo shoot, and probably, who knows, maybe it was beautiful. I mean, some of them were the 60s and 70s. I'm sure everybody was like stoned and happy, little tipsy, whatever, but to take that image, that capture of a woman, cut it out of the magazine, sticky pages and all, and glue her to something, give her a halo, celebrate that person. To me, that's like, it does something. I had an architect in the studio the other day, and he was saying the same thing, that the reason that he connected so well with my work was that he enjoyed the elevation of something that was just considered porn, and that is, it's like prostitution or something like that. Taking the judgment away. I mean, it's an industry that's not necessarily beneficial to women, whatever. There's some sort of, there's sex magic in the world. There's sexual healing in the world. There is, people, there's lots and lots of things that can be flipped to be shown in a different light. And I think that's one of the things that I've tried to do. I had a very difficult childhood, and I discovered at some point, I didn't know why I had done zebra stripes. What was my fascination with zebra stripes? And one time while I was painting zebra stripes on something, I had a memory of a childhood experience and a zebra pattern. And it was, something that was like, it came out as like almost like a therapy for PTSD, and a realization that I was healing myself by using this pattern. I was reclaiming the pattern and taking it back from the experience that had damaged me so much. And when I had that understanding and that recognition, it was just sort of like an aha moment, and almost like, you're okay, and this is good, and a way to approach healing that part of myself. And it just a signal that my brain, even though maybe I had locked something away, my brain was here to give me messages and help me through this, and that the creative expression was helping things to get better in whatever way art can help do that.
Well, the healing power of art, because it is, right, all the arts, creative, expressive,
because you really are tapping into, exactly. And I think that art is a way to heal a lot of stuff. Music, theater, dance, getting all those things out of yourself by expressing them is a way to attain healing. And I think people should try it. more.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I actually use the creative and expressive arts for clients.
Exactly.
And they tell me that, and not that I've been trained traditionally, and not that they say that there's anything wrong with the traditional therapies, but they prefer, some of that, more unconscious thinking as they do the artwork.
Yeah, it's a less
That,
direct way to approach the
right,
same thing.
right.
And almost like if it's less direct, it's easier on us
Mhm,
than
mhm. Right.
who hurt you and how. You know,
Mhm,
like like getting it out and thinking about it and processing it in different ways is better. And the creative arts are probably the best way to heal and connect
mhm.
with people, with ourselves, with our higher powers, with our ancestors, with our guides. The creative
Oh,
arts are
absolutely.
the best
Absolutely.
way to be in touch.
Absolutely. And that's why I love your work. I mean, you have, um, everything there, spirituality, women's issues, you have, political issues, environmental, everything is there.
Yes, one of the strongest parts, I think, of my work is the environmental consideration. Artists, all their materials are extremely toxic. Maybe sometimes they're not. For the most part, art materials are toxic, the pigments and all that stuff. And when I started working with collage, cutting things out, using things that I find, really basic kinds of gluing and stuff, I started to recognize that there's a way to make art not so toxic. And I say that because, like, when I was working on my triptych, this is before I moved to the area, I finished my triptych in Easter Sunday 2001. I would be covered in blue paint, blue
Oh,
oil
wow.
all the time. I didn't think anything of it. I was scrubbing my arms. I would scrub the arms with mineral spirits. And I was like, oh, it's minerals. It's minerals.
Oh my
Totally
gosh.
naive, completely naive to how toxic it was, what I was doing was. And working my way towards sequestering single use plastic into a piece of art, which is what I consider that I do now. Sequestering something that would go into the ocean, into like a landfill, just taking something that is looked at as waste and going, no, this is actually purple, or this is, a beautiful pink, or here's a perfect little shape. I'm going to glue this down so that I don't have to spend my time making a perfect circle. Here, I found one. Whatever, ripping up something that was just going to be burned, not burning a piece of wood in order to use it as a substrate for a piece of art. These sorts of things, like, it's a little bit compulsive, because you start to go, oh my God, everything can be made into something else. And so, I have a lot. I hardly ever say no to anything, like art material wise. If people give me, I have like 500 frames, empty frames in my attic, because I don't want to say no. I mean, I have said no to a couple windows and things like that. At some point, I can only have so many windows, but I just try to use what I have and try to put it all together in such a way that I've taken, ephemera, jetsam, flotsam, and made it something that's beautiful and inspiring. And then talk about the process and how I got there. And, hope that it evokes something in someone else, which it seems to. I mean, over the years, I don't know how much work I've sold. I really don't. I'm sure that, if I looked over paperworks and things, but, other people sell them too. It's just, I don't remember all the things that I've made. And people sometimes show them to me. Oh my God, do you remember this? Look at it. I'm like, wow, no, I can't. I mean, I can sort of, like one time somebody showed me a watercolor painting I did of a frog. And I was like, wow, I vaguely remember making that. But,
well, you're prolific. You're very prolific. So
I have so much. It's kind of funny. I was approaching some artists that I don't know personally, but that I've admired a lot, credentialed artists and those sorts of things. And I've approached them and said, would you like to participate in this festival that I'm doing? And they say things like, I don't think I could have enough work in time, which I think is a polite way of saying no, because I cannot imagine most artists don't have like 300 extra things around them. And so I just say, oh, thank you, but it's surprising. Artists are different though. Artists have very different processes. And I've seen some people's studios and probably would be afraid to knock something over. Mine is stuff everywhere. And usually what I do is I take, okay, here's a box of stuff that I put together in a box because I didn't want to deal with it. It was on a surface and I just needed to clean off that surface, and I'll put that box down next to me and I'll start taking things out of it and putting them down onto some piece of wood that I have because somebody didn't, that wanted to throw it away, or a piece of plywood or whatever. And I just start putting things down, and whatever the moment evokes, whatever the materials are I have that are near me, whatever my children are chirping in my ear, all of those things feed the work that I'm making. And
now, how can people get a hold of you? Of course, you have a website for the gallery.
Yeah.
Do you have your artwork on the gallery website as well, or
a little bit? VARGAGallery.com. And Instagram and Facebook. I think the thing that people have to realize when they contact me is that I am more than just the products that I create. So there's a lot of things, either in my Instagram feed or on my Facebook page that are things like the rant that you read. Like every now and then I blow a gasket.
You're living life, right? You're living life on
I'm
your
showing
pages.
People because really, even with like Apocalypse Varga, which was the cable access TV show that I did for 7 years, there's a panoply of things. I love creating video art. I love interviews. I love connecting with people directly. I love community weaving projects. I mean, there's just like so many things that I love to do. And all of it is creative. So if somebody wants to buy something, they can go to one of a number of places that have my artwork up, or my door says this, and it's the best hours I've ever had in my life by chance or appointment.
Yeah. Yes.
You either come when I happen to be there, which is often, or you make an appointment and you can message me on Facebook or Instagram.
And I will put everything in the
and
the links
I have
in the bottom so everybody can see in the
things.
comments. They can see where they can get a hold of you, where they can see the gallery, because it's a brick and mortar gallery, they can come out and see it. They can join the festival. You said the festival's in August. I'll put those dates in. And definitely. Your classes, you offer classes. And I'm sure that my audience would be interested in, and that's online and
I could do Zoom classes, but really it's best for people to come to the studio, be in person. If they want to mask or whatever, I have a boardwalk. We can do it outside. I have so many materials. I have so much stuff that usually what people will do is they'll like look around, they'll find something that they want to work, or they can bring their own materials. If somebody's like, no, I need 5 tubes of paint. I need these brushes, because for me, where's the red paint? I don't know. Let's go find some red paint. I don't know. I don't have a paint. I should have a paint. I do have a paint section, but the paint moves all over the place. So it's an interpersonal thing. And I would encourage people who are seeking a creative outlet, if they feel like they want to have a little guidance or just even a little space in which to do that they reach out and we make arrangements at a mutually convenient time at the studio for them to come and do that. Be creative, be inspired, find a way to tap into what is, something that's on your mind, something that you want to get out, something that you want to make for somebody. I often love making things for people, somebody that you want to paint a portrait of. And the thing is, if you come to my studio, you'll see the endless amount of types of creative potential there is. And something will resonate with people. Something will say, oh, I want to do that. And then I'll say, oh, look, here's the magazines, here's some paper, here's some stuff, and we'll get to stepping. we'll just do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, definitely. I'll have to put all that information down so people can contact you if they're looking to jump into art.
Yeah, I love working with people. I love working one-on-one. I love working with small groups. I love working with children. I love demonstrating this is how you do it, because I feel my life has made me an expert in creative expression of all types. I mean, I sing, not on purpose, not for recording. I dance, for myself, but I can definitely write. I can definitely make. I can definitely show people, here's how you get comfortable doing this. Don't judge yourself. Don't be like, oh, I can't draw a flower. Don't worry about it. Don't rip out some paper and glue them down, pretend they're petals. Just like move through it, move through the resistance, move through the self-doubt, move through the anxiety, move through all the hang-ups, and get to a place where you're like, and it's everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. Everybody has that within them. It just takes a lot of all the barking and the fighting and the rules and the deadlines, and all that just has to, like, for a minute, melt away. And if somebody carves out 2 hours of their day to take it and do that, not everybody has 24 hours a day to be creative and crazy. But if you give yourself a bit of time, you'll find that it's very beneficial. And I think that is for everyone. And it could be like getting together to sew. It could be a little stitch and bitch. It could be a creative writing group. It could be, lots of different things. There's many, many, many different ways.
Right. To give yourself time to create.
Yeah. And also, a lot of people find that absorbing other people's creations, watching this, reading that, going to see this thing in person is also really good. And
of course. Oh, absolutely.
Because people come into my studio and I know that they leave my studio excited to go and work on something. And so experiencing other people's process and creations is as important sometimes as making your own. Yes. If you need a little bit of inspiration. Some people just have like endless inspiration. They're like little monks that can go to a room and just like write tomes. And other people, need to see somebody writing or need to see somebody doing something so that they can feel like that's something I can do too. Right.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Not to get started on like the like this chef was trained here, or this artist was trained here, or this person worked as an apprentice with that. Like I have respect for that kind of stuff. Right. I just think that creativity is more accessible to like
absolutely. And listen, if that's what you need, if somebody needs that to heal, whatever, they want to dance down the street to heal, that's what they should do. That's how it goes. Absolutely. Yes, I have to thank you so much. You're welcome. For sharing your time with us today, for letting us see your wonderful art. I definitely will put all the information down in the comments so people know where to come to see especially the event in August. That sounds fabulous.
Yeah, festival's Friday, August 4th through Sunday, August 6th. I'm saying that the hours like 10 to 6 at the theater. The evening events, will probably be from 6 on. We're going to have live DJs. We're going to have street performers. People will be throughout we're going to have buskers.
Wonderful.
Playing instruments. We're going to have spoken word and poetry.
It should be fantastic.
It's going to be amazing.
Really definitely. I'll have to come myself. I have to come myself with my daughter and my husband. Yes, absolutely. I will. Definitely on the calendar. And again, I thank you so much for speaking with us, Christina. It was wonderful today. And hope to see you soon. I will definitely be down to the gallery. And who knows, I may come and take a class too. I think that sounds great.
Definitely.
Some work. Yes, it's perfect. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too, Lovey. You too.
Bye, Christina. Thank you.
You're welcome.